Hey, dude.
Yeah. What up?
Guess what? We have an awesome week, but who is it?
Ooh, today we have Insurance Sales Mastery with Tony Robbins, top $2 million producer, Neal Tricarico.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Insurance Dudes, a podcast for insurance agency owners, helping us to think of different ways to optimize our business and our lives.
That is awesome. Well played, fellas.
I love your face. You're just like,
Really good. Yeah. I'm like,
Dude.
And I got to change my background. Yeah.
No, that is the best background ever.
Yes.
tell him, you know what, he told me this story about this morning. I don't know if you can say it.
Yeah, of course. It's no big deal. So I'm on Tony's executive team. We have these weekly meetings, and sometimes I'm on site for him and sometimes I'm remote, and I usually have a different background or something. And the marketing director sent me this picture and said, make this your virtual background. And like people were having serious conversations and like other people were laughing. And I was just kind of like, what? It was funny. It was funny for about half the people. Some of the people were like, they were pissed. Like, how dare you? But no,
they would hate my background. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's so good. It's so
That's
good.
not virtual. That's like real.
Yeah, no, it's real. Because this one looks, funny. This is my, what the heck? Can you guys hear that noise back there? Yeah.
What do you think of the shirt, Neal?
That shirt, that's rad. we need to put 9 lives next to it. We just keep living. Well, hey, Jason, it's really good to make the personal connection with you. I love what you're up to. You guys are up to. It's really killer. Craig has done awesome things to say about you.
That's awesome, man. I know it's so cool to finally be all connected.
Yes, indeed. And your space is so ripe for guys like you and this. It's fucking killer.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Now
Dude,
we have to click the explicit box.
Oh, I thought you said you cut all this up and everything.
We're getting less into that because the reel is a little bit more interesting sometimes.
Okay, cool. And it's just audio though, right?
And video. Well, it doesn't matter.
All right, well then I'll switch back.
The background is for audio only. It is a picture of the ocean with a dolphin and a cow jumping out of the water,
side by side, jumping above the water.
Yeah.
So what does that represent? Or I'm sure what were the people talking about this morning?
Well, truthfully, I don't know. It started to get into a technology thing on Salesforce or CRM. And so I think all of us were moving towards multitasking. And said, throw this up and see if they pay attention. I have to move over a little bit so it looks right.
So the cow, you don't want to block the cow.
No, the cow's the best.
I do love how you included everyone else in the glazing over with the technology when there's a possibility it might have just been you.
No, it was funny because you know Brooke, and so this guy was going on and on and on, and then so he's like, Brooke, like you're following me, right? And Brooke's like, he's like, dude, I lost you like 2 or 3 minutes ago, and I chimed in. I'm like, yeah, that means the rest of us have been gone for a good 10 minutes. Yeah.
So Neal, dude, tell us about your background, man. And how did you meet this guy?
So I've known this guy for a number of years. It's got to be north of 30 years right now. I mean, Craig and I met in elementary school way back in the day. Our parents became
maybe more
friends.
than
maybe even more than because you're older than I am. Actually, dude, it's much more than 30 years ago because I came to San Marino in the 2nd grade, so what's that, like 7 or 8? And our parents became friends through some mutual friends, and the kids just kind of hit it off. And this guy was a crazy mofo growing up. Are we explicit or not? Am I need to be? Yeah,
I think the ambiguity is
crazy motherfucker.
Yeah, this guy's a crazy motherfucker growing up. So I was tucked right in between Craig and his sister. Craig's a year older than me. His sister's a year younger than me. And everybody at school, especially as we got into junior high and high school, knew Craig and how crazy he was and what he was up to. But we just became friends. And then
did you date his sister?
What's that?
Did you ever date his sister?
No, I didn't. Did you ever date mine?
No.
Good.
So we have that in common.
Yeah, sorry, good. Yeah, but then when we started to really get close is when I went, I was considering going to University of Arizona. Yep, and Craig was out there. And I was actually looking at going to USC. I can't believe it. I want to barf when I actually say that. But my parents wanted me to go check it out. And they're like, hey, Craig's out there. And long story short, I went out there for a weekend, hung out with Craig at his fraternity house. And the rest is history. We hit it off, just been fast friends ever since. And yeah, I mean, that's how we met.
That's awesome. And then, So then you guys, friends all growing up, when did you guys decide to do Agency Vault?
Yeah, great question. So there were a couple of things that happened before that. So out of our group from University of Arizona, we had this men's group, boys group. We get back together every year at a cabin in Prescott. And I'd been, working with Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes, growing businesses as a business growth consultant. This was before we launched the Business Mastery program, which I'm happy to tell you about. But I went out and Craig was struggling with his insurance agency. A lot of the common stuff like finding good salespeople, finding good LSPs, and selling, right? I mean, what are the number 1 and number 2 challenges of any sales organization? Finding superstar sales producers and, finding them and then training them to sell. And
right.
So that's my background. I mean, one of my business partners was Chet Holmes, God rest his soul. He's passed on now. But he wrote, if any of you haven't read this, it's the Sales Bible, The Ultimate Sales Machine, How to Build the Ultimate Sales Team in Salesforce. And these are strong fundamentals. And I built my business based on those. And I used a form of an assessment that I've been certified in to work with organizations on building sales forces, recruiting and building those teams, and then also training them to sell. And just, I was watching Craig struggle and, met with him, and we used this assessment to find candidates, to find LSPs, to find producers. And then we trained him just as a friend. And we moved him into one of the top 2 or 3 producers in the Southwest region. And that was super fun. I was glad to do that. It brought us back together. And that's when he had the idea like, hey, we could do this in a really big way together.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So then you mentioned Tony Robbins. So how did that transpire? So that was pre-Agency Vault.
Yeah. So Tony Robbins has been ongoing. I mean, I've known Tony now 12 years. I met him in 2007. And what was going on, as many of you can remember, 2007, 2008 was a low point in the economy, right? Entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners, insurance agencies, the like, people were choking. They were going by the wayside. And I was Deepak Chopra's vice president of sales back then from 2004 to 2008. And that's originally how I got introduced to Tony. For those of you who don't know Deepak, he's recognized as a New York Times bestselling author on meditation, mindset, balance, things like that. I worked with him as his VP of sales. I grew that business from $1 million to $12 million. And over that course of time, that's how I got introduced to Tony. And Tony's vice president of sales became my mentor. And again, a lot of long stories here, but kind of fun stories.
No, that's good.
Yeah, in 2007, 2008, when the economy hit the skids, Tony was really like, hey, we got to help these people, right? Because if you know Tony Robbins, if you've studied him at all, he's consulted, 4 of the last sitting presidents. He's recognized. The founder of Salesforce credits him with the success of Salesforce. I mean, he's behind a lot of large organizations. I think many of us recognize him for, personal growth, motivation, inspiration. But American Express has recognized him for the last 25 years as one of the top 2 to 3 business growth experts on the planet. And what he was saying was like, hey, we got to help these small business owners. We've got to help people. These same principles that I'm using in these large multi-million and billion-dollar organizations apply to small business. So let's put our heads together and let's do an event. And so this was the summer of 2008. I was invited to participate in it. He brought in Chet Holmes, the author of Ultimate Sales Machine, and it was freaking rad, fellas. We had 6 weeks, a website, and some radio ads to drive people to come and participate in what was originally called the Ultimate Business Mastery Summit. And this was going to be a 5-day event where we were going to work with these business owners to give them the mindset and the strategies to turn themselves around, to flourish in the winter, to take advantage of these down times. And it was an amazing, epic event. If you have an opportunity to Google it, it was quite transformational. It was only intended to be a one-time thing. And out of that, the Business Mastery business unit and Business Mastery program was born. And it's the Business Mastery is Tony's world-class program for business owners and entrepreneurs to grow their business. And I'm a co-founder in that program, helped launch it. I've been involved within it for the last decade. And it was during that time that I overlapped a bit with Craig, but I'm still involved with Tony Robbins. I'm on his executive team. I lead the team of reps that bring people to unleash the power within. But I too, like Tony and so many in our organization, are entrepreneurial. And so this started out as I don't want to say favor, because Craig's my boy, he's my brother. I wanted to help him. And then we realized, well, fuck, we could help everybody in this space. And from there, Agency Vault was born. And it was a fun time because we were able to take my background, my expertise, Craig's experience and track record in the insurance space, and really simply build out a framework, what we call the 7-step trusted advisor sales framework. There's no bells and whistles or silver bullets or secrets. It's common sense. But when you install and implement these common sense strategies in their right order, some really extraordinary results can happen. But we can't train ducks to be eagles, right? So we've got to get the right people in there. We hear this all the time. We got to get the right people on the right seat in the bus. And it's not coffee for closers anymore. It's not sales personalities. A disc or personality profile isn't acceptable anymore. I mean, our buyers are far too savvy for that now. So it's really about what attributes, what characteristics show up in any given sales environment. And as you know, in the Allstate environment, it's pretty darn unique. I mean, insurance has become a commodity, and the ability to find people who can shift prospects and clients to what really matters, the value, the protection of their family, is a unique skill. So we took the years and years of data that had been built up in sales organizations and the success we had with Craig and Allstate over 4 or 5 years, and built a particular instrument specific to this industry that every day, with the thousands of agents and LSPs that we have using it, those metrics are updating. So we have a real data-driven mechanism to see what attributes across these 7 forces generate results in this space. And then we can use that to hire against, not as a tool to understand somebody, but to literally determine whether or not and to what extent they're going to succeed in our environment. So I don't know, I'm kind of going on and on and on, but I mean, you tell me, is this where you want me to go?
Yes. Yes. So the thought process is we assess them, we figure out, hey, honestly, how hard is this going to be to get them onboarded into our agency and to get them up and rocking kind of deal.
Yeah. What's really cool about it is, if you look at it, it shouldn't be that hard, right? I mean, there's really 7 steps to this whole process. And, if you can understand how to implement those steps in your environment and to what extent those steps and somebody's ability to execute on those steps produces results, then you're able to hire against that, right? So we get so caught up in, what we need somebody, right? So, I mean, I don't know if he's ever gone through it over this, but I mean, it's really straightforward. I mean, the 7 steps are as follows. Before we even get involved in the sales process, we've got to prepare, right? We've got to understand what our outcome is for that call. We have to focus on that call. We have to focus on the outcome of that call, which is to deliver results for these prospects. And in order to do that, we need to shift our focus. Step 1 is shift your focus from our needs, which is to sell insurance, to hit our quota, to provide for our family, to theirs, right? So we've got to move away from our preoccupations and be prepared in a mindset. Sales is 80% mindset, 20% strategy. These 7 steps are the strategy, but one is our mindset has got to be focused on them, right? And then we get into traditional sales steps like establishing rapport, but not some old bullshit rapport by going on a LinkedIn and seeing what college they went to or talking about local things happening in the, in the city or with the local teams and things like that, but like true rapport. And we need to spend an abundance of time here, not a little bit of time. Studies will show 40% of the sale is made through connection. People buy from people they trust, not the product or service, right?
Yeah.
And then step 3 would be diagnosing needs. We need to understand what it is this person is looking for before we can pitch or offer them insurance or anything like that. That's 25% of the sale. So in the first 2 steps, if we've nailed that, or the first 3 steps, that's 65% of the sale. And when we've executed a specific questioning strategy to uncover what matters most to them, then we can earn the right, the permission, if you will, to go pitch our service, right? And that's step 4, where we build value, right? And this is where we're able to articulate the value that's going to make it worth investing. What are they actually buying? What are they doing, right? What are they getting for their investment? And then if we've completed those 4 steps well, we don't have to close. In traditional sales, the next step would be, we ask questions, we pitch, and then we close. In our world, we diagnose needs, we offer value. If that value is a fit, step 5 is creating buy-in. That's where we literally ask the prospect, why is this something you must do? And when you've done this well, the prospect will articulate in her own words the value that'll make it worth investing. Well, I understand now, going through this whole process, I'm short in my insurance. If I were to get in an accident, or my daughter were to get in an accident, I'd have a gap there, and that would put my family and my assets at risk. So now they're talking about why they must move forward with it. Then the rest is easy. We're not closing them, we're enrolling them. We're signing them up at that point. Step 7 is writing policies. So we're moving to that. It's a really powerful approach. And then step 6 is overcoming objections, which we only need to do if we haven't done steps 1 through 5 well, because objections mean they don't understand something. It's an opportunity to close the gap on something. So, it's taking fundamental steps. These are all common steps, things. We've all been taught them in one form or fashion. These aren't secrets or silver bullets. But Tony talks about this all the time. When success loves sequence. If we do them out of order, then we're closing, then we're selling, then we're pitching. It's not that you can't enroll people at that point, but it's not effective. And so I don't know, circling all the way back to your question about hiring, Now, if we know these 7 steps, and that's our framework, nothing more, nothing less, every possibility that we have to be able to enroll someone is going to fall into one of these 7 buckets. Now we have a framework to recruit against. And this is where that sales strengths identifier comes in, because now our clients in the insurance space, when they're recruiting LSPs, you know, they're doing the ads and everything like that and asking for a resume, but we're not even looking at that. Somebody must complete their sales strengths identifier as a first step. And what that gives the agency owner or the recruiting manager is a clear roadmap of somebody's strengths and weaknesses within each of those 7 categories. Now, I want to be really clear. There's no perfect assessments. Nobody's 100% at all 7 of these. But some of these steps are trainable, right? Like asking questions, right? Other things like building rapport, overcoming objections, asking for the order, they're innate. So if somebody's low, if they don't meet the necessary threshold in those, you don't even bring them in. You don't even invite them for an interview. Don't waste any time. Just send them a nice rejection letter. Don't bother with it. But if somebody meets that minimum threshold, now you use that assessment and an interview guide that we created to not ask them about past performance and have them sell you on why they're so great because you need somebody, but actually role play with them. You know, Chet Holmes was a master at this. He called hot seat. Put people into the situations that they're going to be performing in. Why ask them some questions that you want them to answer correctly because you need them to come in and produce, and then they come in and they're afraid of the phone. You know, in 3 months and 30 or 40 grand later, you've wasted that money. Put them into those tough situations now. And the combination of the sales strengths identifier and the interview guys tells you exactly where to focus and what questions to ask. And you'll see them, the best of the best, they'll rise up, they'll step into that. You know, others, they'll wilt, you know, and it's just you and they are kind of looking at each other because it's pretty obvious they're not going to be a fit. And you've saved them time and money too, because it's pretty stressful to be at a job that you're not good at, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that's the real gist of where we've shifted the game. And then when you bring these people on, or you have your existing staff and you have them take it, it becomes a training mechanism. You're not training everybody on everything. You're focusing on these gap areas, the trainable areas of improvement, so that you can raise the productivity of your LSPs.
That's awesome, man. Mm-hmm. So building that, I mean, how long, I mean, you guys spent a lot of time on building that, obviously implemented it into Craig's agency, which obviously had great results. And then, but like even building that, taking all of your past history, what were the biggest influences to creating that? Where did it come from?
Yeah, sure. You know, great question. I mean, I'll be vulnerable and real with you. You know, it's fascinating how it came about. I mean, it's not something we put together overnight, over months. I honestly, like this is my life's work, right? So I mean, I've come up as a top earner, a top sales producer. I don't say this to impress anybody. There is not a sales team or environment that I've been in that I haven't been number one, right? So and this is, you know, I've realized it as I've come to know Tony Robbins and study Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes. You know, I've been blessed with some talent, but I also see sales and business ownership as mastery, right? And when you're talking about a black belt, Chet Holmes used to talk about this all the time. You know, it's not about doing 10,000 moves. I mean, he would start the seminar with these karate kicks and things. It's about doing 10 things 10,000 times. Right. And so that's all I did was I studied sales. And when you're studying Tony or Chet or, you know, even some of the other guys, the Cardones, I mean, the reality of it is there's no new thing. Right. The sales is highly fundamental. These 7 steps of our trusted advisor process, they exist in nature. You can study them and you can say, oh, this guy says it this way, or this guy says it that way. Exactly. 100%. So what I found over the course of 24 years and millions and millions and millions of dollars in top production is it always comes down to those 7 things in that order, doing them time and time and time and time again. And the truth of the matter is the way this thing was born was I was just happy to be driving along and producing and just, you know, feeling blessed to work with some of the best in the business. And Craig Pretzinger and another dear friend of mine kept telling me, hey man, you got to get this out. You got to get this out. You got to get this out. We can help more people, you know? And I was, you know, again, being just vulnerable and real on this with you guys, I was unsure of that. You know, I was like, well, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just working for me. And I think the linchpin of it all, the glue was, I knew my results spoke for themselves. They were non-debatable. But once I started to get fluent and certified in these mechanisms, once the data started to prove out that I was, and once we started using the early versions of this assessment and putting it out into the entire population, and then see the people that we worked within those gap areas, I believed. It wasn't selling my talent or my belief or, you know, my magic formula. There's so many bullshit $1 million masterminds formulas out there.
Yeah.
This was just saying, hey, here's things that are fundamental that exist out there that everyone teaches in some way or another, but we match data to this. And when we started to see it initially with Craig, because it wasn't me just teaching Craig to be me, Craig isn't me. Craig is the top producer in his field, and in some areas he's grown well beyond me. But much in the same way, I've learned from Tony and Chet, and I'm not Chet. The results of the data said, fuck, we have something here. And now all we need is to get in front of people, though, who are willing to do it. You know, because my son takes karate, and, you know, above the sign there, he's working on his junior black belt. But from day one, the sign above the mirror there says, a black belt is a white belt who never quit, right? So you could sit back and you can watch videos at YouTube and listen to talking heads inside and outside of this space about how they do it. And you're just learning, okay? Knowledge isn't power anymore. Taking fucking action on what you're learning is all that matters. And taking consistent action on it. Not, there's no there. It's not, okay, I understand these 7 concepts, you know, here I go. And then people come back and they're like, you know, they quit their memberships or they stop and they're like, well, you know, I'm not getting results anymore. Well, are you doing the same things? Well, no, I learned it. I understood it. No, bullshit. It's not about knowing it. Like, I'm going to be doing these same 7 things, you know, 10 million times before I die because I love them and I love the impact they have. And so I really want to thank Craig, because I just would have been an individual contributor who's been blessed to work with some of the best on the planet. Now I'm in fact participating in transformations of thousands of people's lives just by doing this.
Your screen froze at the best point, by the way, and it's a great.
But can you hear me at the same time or no?
We can hear you.
No, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm blowing up over here, but it's all good. I don't know how to turn off.
That's such a good picture. I wish. So here's a question. And, so you're a salesman, right?
Yes.
What are your numbers? Like, what are you doing right now?
Well, I don't sell as much as I used to. I you know, but my best years were 2 million, north of 2 million.
That's awesome. And what kept you going? Like, even beyond like what you guys have with Agency Vault, like mentally, the cream rises to the top. You're always number 1 in sales, but like honestly, what was the mindset behind that? Like what kept you driven?
For me, it's raising the bar of what's at stake. And again, Tony talks about this a lot. I mean, so much of the important stuff I've learned from him. And when we talk about raising the bar of what's at stake, it's a driving force that's greater than the sum total of the work or making money, right? So for me, it's twofold. Number 1, first and foremost, It's about my family, about making sure and ensuring we can do everything we could possibly want in our lives, right? And that drives me literally to the ends of the earth with these programs with Tony and things like that. And then in terms of the day-to-day grind, it's just the desire to be the best. I mean, once you've made it to the top, it's like I don't ever want to not be at the top, right? And so, and then a couple other reasons. My passion, this is my love. I mean, other than my wife, my children, and maybe Craig, there's nothing I care about more. Like I love this. You know, when you study black belts, when you find people who are in their purpose, or what Tony calls their dharma or purpose in life, you see that they're in this flow. There's nothing, you know, I love or enjoy more than that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Give us a tidbit. What drives you nuts about Craig? Hot seat.
Yeah,
hot seat question.
Yeah, so much like any of you who are married, unfortunately, there's not enough time left in this podcast to lay out the list. You know, what drives me nuts most about Craig are the things that I love about him most, because he's so opposite than me. He couldn't be more opposite. So, you know, this is where our partnership is tremendous. Again, I literally just want to do the same 7 things 10,000 times. Craig wants to do 10,000 things. In sales, he's trained himself to be a black belt, but in business, he's trained himself that he understands the need for consistent and strategic innovation. And this world is moving faster than it ever has. So he pulls these shiny objects out of the sky, and every 5th or 6th or 10th or 20th one is fucking rad. Yeah. And we jump on that and we co-create and do stuff together. But the ones in between, I'm just like, yeah.
I knew that was going to be the answer. Yeah. That's the same thing with me. Like, that's why Craig and I get along so well, is because just like the cat, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the picture. But you know, without that, I don't know. It just would be different. I'd probably still just be, you know, producing and minding my own business.
What was the best? So you've been around some really awesome people. What was the best piece of advice that just maybe changed your life, or maybe changed a part of your life, or kind of took you down a different turn?
That's
the number one piece of advice.
The number one piece of advice. This is a good one, and Craig hears this one from me a lot, and it's true in all aspects of my life. And I want to honor my dear friend and mentor, Craig Lashansky, Steve Lashansky. You know which one I'm going to say, Craig?
I do.
Yeah. Being right.
The 6 Ps?
Right. No.
Oh, no. Oh, I thought you were going to do 6 Ps.
No, not 6 Ps.
Right.
6 Ps is great. Proper planning does prevent piss poor performance. That's for sure. 6 Ps.
We would have got that right. How do we plan?
But
I like that.
From Steve Lashansky, it's this: being right is insufficient for being effective. Think about it, right? If we're right, when we're engaged in dialogue or debate, whether it's with our spouse, our business partner, a child, any point in life, once we're locked in consciously or unconsciously to being right, that automatically means the other person is wrong. And when they're wrong and we're right, that creates an entirely different dynamic, which is blocking us from getting to, you know, our ultimate outcome, which is to partner with someone in creating a solution, right? So once you can let go of being right, or when you're in an argument with your spouse or a significant other or business partner, and understand that truly what you're debating is right or wrong. And if it is right or wrong, then it's a matter of opinion and not fact. You know, we get into these debates because we make our opinions facts. then we've lost. We've got no shot. So if we could let go of being right, we've got a space that's created to be affected together. So that's a great question, Jason, because I've been blessed with a lot of good advice over the years. But if someone stuck that proverbial gun to my head, that would be it. Being right is insufficient for being effective.
I like that. Yeah, it's so true, especially with the relationships. That's it, man. Like so many times we get in those arguments or something, and it's like after a while you're like, I don't care. Like I don't even know how we got here. If I would have just laid back, listened, who cares who cares who's right? Yeah.
And if you can let go of that, then your psychology is coming from a different place of, it's possible maybe I'm wrong and maybe she's right, or again, letting go of being right creates the space for the possibility that we can co-create something together.
So that's kind of like letting off of our ego a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But ego is what kind of drives salespeople and drives us. So that's a weird balance thing.
It is. Yeah. It is. And it's, it's easy to say and very hard to do.
Yep.
I'm far from a black belt at that. I'll tell you that.
It's being cognizant of it and working on it. Like if we know that there is a problem, then we can work on a solution. But if we don't know, then we're screwed.
Yeah.
So Craig, you're so quiet.
I just want to sit back and watch and listen to this. It's so interesting. I'm on the outside right now. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, Craig, what is one thing that you know about Neal that's really funny? That you think
I don't think I should say. I know right now he's not wearing underwear.
That's true. That's true. I'm wearing pants, though. I'm not naked. I do my best work naked, though.
I didn't wear underwear for years. Finally went back to the old tighties.
Yeah.
Now I'm used to having my boys secure.
Yeah.
True story. I don't know if we'll keep that. Neal, what is a question that when people do talk to you that you wish they would ask you, or that they should ask you? What should we ask you? What should I ask you? Or
that's a great question, and maybe I hate answering a question with a question, but what do you think in terms of your listeners, both knowing me or have studied my background a little bit, that would be most valuable for them? What are they looking for? What are they trying to figure out, solve for?
I think that we all kind of know one thing, is that we're all trying to, it's almost like you get into this habit of putting one toe in, like to your point of, you can know all this stuff. I mean, I have a problem with I'm addicted to learning stuff. I love learning stuff, but the implementation, it's almost like you get so used to that it takes up a lot of time, and you dip toes in and you don't just dive in. And I think a lot of agency owners have that problem because we kind of have the opportunity. We're in a situation where we can be lazy at times, and because it does have that reoccurring revenue type part, where if we were like loan officers or something, it's like we don't eat if we don't sell. What I think for you, knowing that with your background with Tony and stuff, mindset, how do you kick yourself in the butt? What's the best advice on that stuff?
So I think, this is a great one. I have it up here. I can't show it to you. Maybe I can if I take it down. Is this showing up? Not with that background.
No.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that picture, by the way.
He's the chief technology officer.
Yeah, terrible.
Nice.
Ride the fucking wave. All right. So listen, I mean, mindset is not something we can keep or do or maintain. I mean, yes, can we learn some strategies and things to, you know, to get us to change our state, to move out of state and you know, elevate our game? You know, we can, but long term, is that sustainable? You know, it's not. You have to have a strategy, something that you can come back to. You know, I use this analogy all the time and in sales and in life, but it's like GPS is such a tremendous example. That app on our phone, or, you know, the nav in our car, it literally, it doesn't work without an address. It doesn't matter that you know how to drive the car, to press the gas and brake and make left and right turns. It does not matter. But once you enter that address, it builds a strategy from the address, not from where you are, but from the address all the way back to where you are. And it maps it out, right? And yes, accidents, challenges, roadblocks come up. And what happens is it's going to build an alternate route, but not for the whole thing. It's not willing itself to get there. It's only willing itself and solving for an alternate route to the next milestone, right? So it's 80% psychology, 20% strategy. You know, you hear this all the time, but if you get in a car and go somewhere, you need to go somewhere with your kids or your significant other or somebody special to you, and you know the address and you don't know how to get there and you don't have a GPS, there's no amount of motivation, or I'm going to fire myself up and left, right, yes, I'm going to do this. You're never going to get there. So you have to have a framework, something that you can consistently come back to in times of struggle and strife, and say, all right, let me just take a step back. All I got to do is figure out this. And that's when, you know, motivating yourself, pumping yourself up. How can I solve for this thing? Because once I hit that thing, it's smooth sailing from there. Does that make sense? So
totally.
You know, yeah.
And us, like Neal did a lot of work with me to elevate my sales game, and it came back to the fundamentals. And it was so interesting. Like I remember him saying, "Oh, now the grasshopper is teaching the master," or something. You know, we were joking, but he got in a funk where he wasn't selling as much back when he was selling more, when that was what he was, you know, his main role. And then I just would turn it on him and say, well, did you shift your focus? Did you, did you diagnose? Did you establish rapport? Did you diagnose needs? And we started going through it. He's like, holy crap, dude, I was thinking about having to pay this or do that and how I had to close them. And he takes it back to the fundamentals. And so and it doesn't matter where. I mean, we were just talking about this yesterday. My wife's been job interviewing, right? Because she's recruited, and we don't need to get into the details, but she said, how can you help me with some of the negotiation? And I did this, I gave her the same advice. Look, you need to shift your focus to him. You have to create rapport. You have to ask him what he wants. Like, I gave her the 7 steps to use in the interview to negotiate. And at the end, she called me, she goes, I got everything I asked for. He acted and said the things you said he would say. Like, I was like, whoo, it worked, you know, but what a monumental victory between, you know, for my relationship with her too. And I'm blessed that she's not going to ever listen to this, so I know I can talk about her. But, you know, it's just like, it doesn't just apply in Allstate at the Allstate agency. Like this same set of things works everywhere.
Everywhere. Everywhere. It's so true. And I got a little bit off track. The reason I showed you Ride the Fucking Wave is here's what I know to be true. I know to be true in life and in business and nature is polarity. Plus and minus, black and white, dark and light, sun and moon. You know, I mean, that's just the way life works. And most of my life, I wanted to push against it. I wanted to force myself against it. I wanted to impart my will. I wanted to drive and do whatever it took to get the outcome that I wanted. But sometimes in life, and not only sometimes, most often in life, when we let go, that's where the most growth happens. So Deepak taught me this many years ago, because we live so close to the ocean right out here. Is like, you know, if you're in that washing machine, right, that we've all been in, you, Jason, living in Newport Beach, you know, where you're getting tossed around and you're trying to swim for the surface, and you get there, but it's like you're hitting sand. You're turned upside down. No amount of will but as soon as you let go and just puff out, you float to the surface. So every time I go to the beach, I just lay on my back and I let those waves move me. That's why it's that example of it. I let those waves move me, because it's going to take me somewhere, you know. And if you've got to have something you can hold on to. So that's my mantra: ride the fucking wave. Like, mantras sound woo woo and things like that, but mine is pretty strong. But that's what I need to do. Like, when you say when times get tough, or how do you shift your mindset and do this, for me, it's not forcing more or doing more or stepping into more, because those of you that know me, there's not more that I can step in or do or force. I've built myself into this guy that can do and take care of anything. So in difficult times, it's actually more the letting go. So ride the fucking wave is my mantra. That's the piece I need to get back to in times of struggle. But I've also created an example of it. People talk about, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a representation of it. I've chosen Arjuna. So those of you that study different deities or different things like that, Arjuna is known for the singleness of purpose. So if you Google Arjuna, if you look for images of Arjuna, you'll find somebody with a bow and arrow, and they're pulling that bow and arrow back. You've got an eye closed. You've got that focus on the target. I've got to hit that bullseye. Your singleness of purpose is on that outcome, on that target, on that finish line. But that arrow is not going to hit the target until you what?
Let go.
Let go.
So you let go, right? And once you let go, the rest of it is out of your hands. Everything you did to prepare, to be certain, to get that outcome in 4K, laser beam focus, you're zeroed in on it. But me fucking squeezing it harder or holding on to it or any of that, forcing it, is actually not going to do it. So all you can do is everything that you have control over, and then the rest is going to happen based on letting go. And if it doesn't happen, you know what? It probably wasn't meant to be, and there's something better coming. And a lot of what I'm saying may sound cliche, but if you open your eyes and get present with it, you'll study it and see it. I'm not looking over my shoulder. I'm having some of the best times in my life. So I'm not waiting for the next worst times, but I know some of these best times were preceded by difficult times. So I'm just aware that not everything is always going to work out, but frustration precedes breakthrough. So if we get into a negative place where I can't believe this is happening to me, I expected it to happen this way, I thought it was going to happen this way, it should have happened this way, why do these things always happen to me? Why aren't I hitting my numbers? Why isn't my business profitable? When you get into those victim things, it attracts more of the victim things, as opposed to saying, what am I missing here? What's the learning? I'm really frustrated. I must be close. You know, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. And when you make those shifts, that sun is going to rise again. I mean, you know, it's crazy, but it always does. But if you're always looking for the dark, you're going to find that dark. So when I get into difficult times of challenge or strife, it's not a thing or a do, and I'm like, okay, here we go. You know, it's recognition, like, oh yeah, I'm opposing my will, I'm forcing it, and I need to step back. I need to take my feet off the ground. I need to float and see where this thing takes me, and then focus back in on what I want, pull back, and just let it go.
That's awesome advice. Yeah. I think a lot of times too, we focus on things that we can't control. It's like it's like in sales, and we always tell our salespeople, it's like, dude, make the numbers of calls. It's all a numbers game. Make the numbers of calls. Make sure that the presentation is exactly, script or with that process. Make sure that only the stuff that you control. You can't control if they say yes or no or whatever. Or some days people are all about yeses. Some days they're not. Or some days we can't get a hold of people. And it's like, dude, just focus in. If you're doing what you can control 100%, that's it. And then let go.
Yeah, it's so true. And in the all state space, it's hypercritical because, the LSPs are focused on, we're always the most expensive. We're like, why can't we compete on price? Why? And they get themselves wrapped around the axle. They're here. Is it possible that there are people in the very same role across the nation that are producing better results than you? Do they have the same shingle on their door? So what's the difference? 80% of the difference is their mindset, how they're showing up for it. And the other 20% is, are they running a program? Are they running a GPS? Are they running something really simple and fundamental that they can keep coming back to? So when their mind gets scrambled, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm over here. I need to be here.
That's awesome.
It's just, yeah.
That was a good 360 right there. Brought it all back around.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to say? I value your time. Thank you so much. I know we wanted to get you on here and you made it time for us. So thank you so much.
I'm happy to. I mean, just a little bit of shout out. I'm bursting with joy because my little 9-year-old has won a leadership award that she's going to get at 4:30. So I am eager and excited to get out of here. A little
do it
off the old block. She may even exceed her father, but I'm happy to do that. And, if there's anything I can do to support your I say viewership, your tribe, your people, I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks so much, Neal. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Craig, I mean, what do you think? We can invite people to our coaching call, or we want to tell them what we're doing?
Yeah, for sure. We have the coaching call that's part of the platform. It's included in the special that we have going right now, which is $199 a month. It includes everything, and the coaching call is on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 11 Mountain, noon Central. A lot of agents can't do this conversion, and 1 Eastern.
Yeah, and here's what I'd like to say. Let's do this, Craig. Yeah. So definitely, we have the Agency Vault platform, which covers the training, which includes all of the the assessments, unlimited assessments, the program and system to walk your team through. But the thing where we're having the most impact here for 6, 7, 8 months now is the weekly, what Craig is referring to as the coaching call that I do and lead with him every week, where I'm working with agency owners. We're breaking down their businesses. We're breaking down their challenges. They have access to specific content, and it's a pretty juicy deal. Ultimately, this thing is going to be $400 or $500 a month. Right now, it's $200 a month as we're building this thing. It includes the system. It includes a 7-step framework, unlimited assessments. The easiest thing you can do, Craig, maybe we can make a special link available to them through the podcast, is to sign up. We have a full money back guarantee. But what I invite you to do is, even if you just aren't ready or don't really understand what we're talking about on this, is we'd be happy to invite you as a guest to come and participate with us on any of the upcoming Tuesdays. So maybe there's a way that they get in touch with you guys through this podcast.
I'll drop Daniel's link in there, and they can schedule a time, and then he can set them up.
Great. Awesome. Well, listen, awesome. I really appreciate, you guys doing what you're doing and the nod to bring me on. I hope that was valuable and helpful in some way
for sure.
Your listeners. Yeah, and you guys keep cranking. I enjoy seeing you there on iTunes. I can't believe my boy Craig Fritzinger is on iTunes.
That's right. So give Belina a hug and congratulations from me.
I will. Thanks, fellas.
All right, brother.
Appreciate you
have
guys.
a good
Take
one.
care. All right, you
Thank
too.
you.
All right, nice hanging with you, Jason.
Good
Later,
hanging with you, man.
Your Insurance Dudes podcast is sponsored by Agency Vault, an industry leader in agency coaching, hiring and retaining top talent, and sales training with the 7-step trusted advisor sales framework. Are you up for the challenge? For $99, you'll get 28 days of access and an opportunity to join our private platinum coaching group. For more information, navigate to www.agencyvault.com.
Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.